Imagine this. You find yourself in a dimly lit room, the air thick with an indefinable tension, a mirror standing tall before you. It's a simple reflection at first, showing the surface level, the familiar contours of your face, the color of your eyes, the expressions you've worn all your life like second skin. Yet, upon closer scrutiny, something seems amiss. The reflection is hazy, as if distorted by a film of apprehension that clouds not just the mirror's surface but your own identity. And then it strikes you. Every detail in that reflection has been shaped by more than just the echo of ancestral genes or the mosaic of childhood memories. Lurking beneath lies an intricate web woven with strands of fear, subtly, yet profoundly influencing every facet of who you are. Think back to moments of anxiety as you stood at the precipice of decision, when the comforting lull of the familiar clashed against the intimidating unknown. How often did you choose the former? In this sacred battle within the sanctuary of your thoughts, fear not only dictated your choices, but sculpted your very self-image. How is it, one ponders, that fear, a fleeting emotion, can take residence in the architecture of our being, etching itself into our identity with such ferocity? Pause and reflect. Is it the fear of failure that drives you to overachieve, tirelessly pushing against the limits until exhaustion blurs the boundary between effort and identity? Or perhaps it is the fear of judgment that camouflages your true self, wearing the masks that society casually favors, while the essence of who you truly are fades into the background, a ghost of itself. Questions swirl around, each inquisitive tendril reaching deeper into the cavernous expanse of your subconscious. Does fear serve as a protective guardian, a vigilant sentinel that safeguards us against the perils of vulnerability? Or is it a cunning architect that confines us within the invisible bars of our mental prisons, dictating how we live, love, and dream? Consider the paradox. Fear, perceived as a hindrance, might just be a molding press, shaping us as much by its presence as by its absence. As you gaze into this mirror, poised on the brink of revelation, you realize the profundity of this contradiction. That something as intangible and insidious as fear could have wrought such profound impact upon your identity. The room, holding its breath, echoes the unasked question: is your identity an authentic self-expression or a self-manufactured masterpiece, crafted under the heavy-handed guidance of fear? Standing at this precipice of understanding, you are drawn towards an urgent need to unravel this mystery, to peel back layers of conditioning, and to explore the depths where fear has laid its roots. This dawning insight beckons a journey through the shadowed corridors of psyche and society, a quest not merely to identify and confront your fears, but to grasp how they have sculpted your very essence. Feel the weight of this inquiry settle within you. In this room, in what you assumed was a simple reflection, lies a powerful truth waiting to be unveiled. The mirror before you, both a portal and a reflection, awaits as the entryway to an exploration that promises not just understanding, but potential liberation from the subtle tyranny of fear upon identity. As you step forward, prepared to delve into the shadows, the narrative pulls you deeper, inviting you into the next chapter of discovery. To unravel the inscrutable grip of fear upon your identity, you must traverse beyond the immediate, visible reflection and plunge into the intricate labyrinth of psychological and philosophical roots. This is where fear is not merely an emotion, but a complex narrative interwoven with your very being, an ancient, omnipresent force whispering its story across the timelines of history and individual experience. Imagine fear as a silent architect, laboring tirelessly within the underworld of your psyche, its influence reaching far beyond conscious comprehension. Carl Jung once envisioned such forces as archetypal shadows loitering in the collective unconscious, powerful elements shaping human identity and society in profound, unseen ways. Fear, wresting control from the conscious self, might masquerade as prudence or caution, but is, in reality, a deep-seated need for security, a relic of our primordial survival instincts. Enter Nietzsche's world, where the eternal struggle of the individual's authentic expression battles against the homogenizing force of societal norms. Here, fear solidifies its domain, not just as a psychological construct, but as a philosophical force that coerces individuals into conforming with societal conventions, driving mankind into herd mentality. This enforced homogeneity dulls the individual's soul, a compromise paid in the hard currency of authenticity. Arthur Schopenhauer brings to the table another facet in this multifaceted examination: fear as a manifestation of the human will's insatiable desires. According to Schopenhauer, the will strives endlessly, caught in cycles of fulfillment and dissatisfaction, while fear emerges as a defense mechanism against the perpetual discontent that stems from the insidious whispers of this all-consuming will. Consider, then, how fear, rather than being an impediment, becomes an indispensable survival mechanism in a world constantly shifting and evolving beyond control. Traversing further, Viktor Frankl's existential insights shed light on fear as it pertains to our search for meaning. He implores us to reckon with our most profound fears to find purpose amidst chaos. In the absence of meaning, fear festers, transforming from a necessary response into an existential burden, one that impedes our capacity to carve our true identities. Since the dawn of humanity, fear has lingered, its grip unrelenting upon the psyche, sometimes a stifling force, other times a necessary guardian. Our brains, perpetually on the lookout for threats, naturally veer toward a negative bias, an evolutionary trait that, although once ensured survival, now manifests in modern times as anxiety and self-doubt, seeping into the crevices of our inner self. Societal forces, too, perpetuate this fear, firmly rooting it within the collective consciousness. From the haunting echoes of historical traumas to present-day existential crises, be it the fear of economic instability, global threats, or simply the fear of missing out, society wields fear like a steady battering ram against the fragile gates of individuality. Herein lies the problem. Fear has become camouflaged within the scaffolding of our constructed identities. Whether through the learned behaviors encouraged by cultural conditioning or the internalized narratives of our personal experiences, fear shapes emotional responses, dictates perceptions, and even molds aspirations, often without conscious consent or recognition. Yet this hidden problem does not just shape who we are, it defines the boundaries of who we can become. It prompts a pressing inquiry. If fear influences every layer of identity, from surface behaviors to the deep-seated beliefs within, are we ever truly free to discover and express our genuine essence? And if we are stifled by these unseen chains, how might we unshackle ourselves to pursue an undistorted, luminous version of selfhood? As you ponder this enigma, feel the thickness of anticipation filling each thought, hinting at hidden layers yet unraveled. Therein lies the potential unraveling of this obscure thread, navigating the shadows deeper, where fears coil and constrict, poised to shape decisions before they ever reach consciousness. The next step beckons, to explore the far-reaching ramifications of these unseen forces, to illuminate the path fear has carved through personal and collective reality. It is an eerie curiosity, how something as intangible as fear quietly weaves itself into the very fabric of not just individual lives, but the collective social tapestry, leaving behind a trail of unseen consequences. Sit with this. Fear, that shadowy prelude to panic, has the potency to subtly yet drastically alter the essence of who we are. Whether societal or personal, it molds perspectives, dictates behaviors, and methodically constructs the very fortress it claims to defend us from, an insidious irony that must be unpacked if we are to break free. Cognitive biases, those deeply ingrained mental shortcuts, often manipulated by fear, steer decision-making in ways that reinforce rather than dispel insecurities. Consider the confirmation bias, how you interpret information through the lens of what you already fear, leaving little room for objective reality to seep in. This psychological blindfold distorts perception, leading to a cyclical reinforcement of existing fears and a narrow, constricted sense of self. In neurological terms, let us journey into the amygdala, the brain's ancient sentinel, constantly on guard for perceived threats. This primordial structure, in its eagerness to protect, can override rational thought, imprinting fear responses that perpetuate anxiety long after the threat has passed. The implications are profound: heightened stress responses, chronic anxiety disorders, even physical ailments as the body manifests the somatic echoes of its burdensome occupant. Fear. Within the societal realm, fear broadcasts on every frequency, its whisper barely discernible underneath the hustle of daily existence. Cultural conditioning, a powerful agent in shaping identity, often exploits this undercurrent, engineering identities more aligned with survival within societal norms than authentic expression. Fear of rejection, fear of inadequacy, fear of nonconformity, catalysts that propel the vast machinery of societal behavior control, fostering environments where authentic identity must cower behind veils of illusion. Metaphorically, fear casts shadows even into the arts, the mirror through which societies reflect and critique themselves. In literature, cinema, and music, narratives driven by fear expose our darkest anxieties and either challenge or reinforce our prescribed roles. Through these reflections, society gazes upon the constructed self, often reassuring in its familiarity, yet tragically unchallenged. Historically, the consequences of fear extend their tendrils into the chronicles of human conflict and cooperation. Wars have erupted from the fear of losing power, leading to unspeakable devastation, as nations have grappled with their collective identity in the theater of global conquest. Economies bend and break under the weight of fear. The apprehension of instability breeds decisions that prioritize immediate security over long-term growth, orchestrating cycles of boom and bust. Philosophically, Sartre speaks of existence precedes essence, a notion that strikes at the very heart of identity, as shaped by fear. In acknowledging our inherent freedom, we also must accept the weighty responsibility of crafting our own identity, often penned under the dictation of fear. Here lies the existential dread. The fear of absolute freedom compels us into narratives of denial, avoidance, and bad faith. And yet, amid these whispered directives and unspoken boundaries, a critical inquiry rises: what if, in an ironic twist of fate, the adamant application of fear's directives themselves becomes the true threat, perpetuating a life half-lived in echo rather than creation? Are we doomed to a cyclical dance with fear, our identities forever caught in its web, or is there an escape, a passage beyond the labyrinth of unseen consequences? These unseen machinations, complex and insidious, call for a reckoning, a need to confront fear not as an adversary but as a force to interrogate, understand, and ultimately transcend. Before such a transformation can occur, however, we must navigate the next frontier of this exploration, understanding the catalyst for rebellion and the path to liberation from fear's hidden dominance, poised to transit from consequence to consciousness. The journey beckons anew. Will you continue to explore the confines of fear, or dare to break beyond its entrapments toward emancipation? Imagine waking up one morning, your mind clear and unburdened, as if seeing the world anew with eyes no longer sensitive to the lighting of your own prison bars. It feels like shedding a skin, something heavy and constricting, yet intimately known. This fresh awakening signals the start of a rebellion, not against an external oppressor, but against the intimate adversary that has long dwelt within: fear. The question that arises is not whether such a transformation is possible, but how to initiate it, how to courageously sever the chains of fear to reclaim your authentic self. Begin with a realization, a paradigm shift as astonishing as it is liberating, the realization that fear is not actual law but merely perspective. It is perception given undue weight through habitual reinforcement. Dare to question its authority, allowing clarity and discernment to deconstruct the beliefs erected in its name. Such was the radical insight of those who, throughout history, refused to let fear dictate their narrative. Consider Mahatma Gandhi, whose autonomous resistance against colonial powers was fueled not by fear of oppression, but by a vision of freedom so compelling it inspired a nation to rise above its imposed identity. Enter the cognitive battlefield with humility and courage, armed with introspection. Reevaluate the neural pathways often tread by fear. Engage in a dialogue between your consciousness and its subconscious echoes. Challenge the habitual reactions to stimuli, and slowly, the labyrinthine paths become untangled. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for instance, offers a framework for identifying and dismantling the negative thought patterns entrenched by fear, revealing more empowering narratives to guide behavior. Reclaim your narrative as an existential novelist, redirecting your gaze to contemplation and mindfulness. By embracing techniques derived from mindfulness, such as meditation, one can begin to observe fear without attachment, recognizing it as a transient component of the human experience rather than a static part of identity. In this stillness, Jean-Heinrich Lambert's idea of an inner sentiment comes alive, wherein recognizing and understanding one's own emotions becomes the cornerstone of true autonomy. History and philosophy teem with those who have danced with fear only to transcend its seductive melody. Nietzsche encouraged the embrace of one's own will to power to overcome the confines of fear. By creating new values, untethered from external judgment, one can transition from a fear-fueled existence to a life driven by self-actualization. Likewise, the Stoics advocated for focusing on what is within one's control, reshaping fear's narrative by admitting the limits of human power and finding peace therein. Next, lift the lantern of curiosity and education to illuminate the dark corners that fear imposes. Knowledge becomes a powerful ally. It demystifies unfamiliarity and eradicates ignorance, rendering fertile ground for informed action rather than immobilization. The unknown, after all, is fear's greatest ally, and enlightenment its adversary. And finally, envisage the power of community. Throughout history, collective will has often mirrored the strength of individual resolve amplified exponentially. The sense of belonging found within empathetic communities creates a buffer against fear's isolating nature. By engaging with others who are also confronting their fears, shared strength becomes a palpable force, a chorus rising against personal and collective oppression. Recognize, then, the liberation that lies in choosing vulnerability over security, in daring to craft an identity founded not on the avoidance of fear, but on the fearless pursuit of truth. In breaking free, you are not just an individual unchained, you become a beacon, illuminating paths for others yet to embark on this journey. It is here that you begin to grasp the fullness of your potential, untethered from the shadows, a being not defined by caution, but by courage. This rebellion, this conscious choice to transcend fear and redefine your identity, marks the beginning of a transformative quest. You stand on the precipice of boundless exploration and self-discovery. As you continue to peel back the layers, what ultimate truth awaits? What realization will you encounter as the final veil of fear falls, revealing an unencumbered self, illuminated, vibrant, and unfathomably free? Ahead lies the climactic revelation, the epiphany that justifies every step through this intricate dance. As you continue this transformative odyssey, there comes a moment, a quiet, profound revelation that stops you right in your tracks. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast cliff overlooking a great expanse, the horizon bursting with the colors of a new dawn. You realize that the very journey you embarked upon to conquer fear wasn't just about unraveling its grip, but rather reinterpreting its role in your life's narrative. It is here, teetering on this brink of enlightenment, that the ultimate truth unveils itself. Fear is not the enemy but a profound teacher, offering profound insights into your deepest values and desires. This realization floods your senses like a resurrecting breeze, reshaping everything you believed your identity to be. Fear, once an oppressive force, is recast in the light of revelation, not as a destroyer of dreams, but as a galvanizer pushing you to transcend limits, challenging you to invent and then reinvent yourself amid perpetual flux. Understand this: fear illuminates the paths we most yearn to take, those cloaked in uncertainty, that are often our most significant opportunities for growth and transformation. Consider the paradox. Fear arises not in vacuity, but around things of great personal significance. Only those dreams imbued with meaningful potential invite fear, as they whisper the call to step beyond comfort into the embrace of life's magnificent chaos. In this realization, Fear transforms from an adversary to a compass, pointing toward those aspects of life that require your courage, attention, and love. Where previously fear shrouded truth in uncertainty, it now peels back to reveal a landscape rich with possibility. Apprehension curdles into excitement, prompting the soul to dance on the very edge of existence, where innovation and change spring eternal. Recall Viktor Frankl's insight that within every human heart lies a profound capacity for meaning-making, born out of the crucible of suffering and even fear. In transcending fear, you unearth resilience, authenticity, a narrative written by your own hand, rather than dictated by circumstance or external pressures. Imagine the world as a canvas, blank but teeming with potential. Fear was the brush poised above it, restricting its strokes in cautious daubs until now. With newfound understanding, the colors spill unchecked, each swirl and mark a testament to your own volition, a vibrant embodiment of your authentic self. The ultimate freedom in acknowledging fear, not as a shackle, but as a liberator, lies in choosing how it defines you, rather than being defined by it. And yet, acknowledge this truth: fear will always be a presence. Its complete eradication is neither possible nor desirable, but its mastery is. Accepting its presence, welcoming it as an indispensable part of the human condition, this is the alignment with authenticity. The goal is not a life without fear, but one not driven by it. In place of avoidance, there arises a conscious allowance, a deliberate choreography of your energy and actions in harmony with fear, not resistance to it. In this culmination, the walls of fear transform from fortresses into foundations, the pillars upon which vulnerability and courage stand congruently. Here, fear redefines itself as the lyric of the eternal dance that pushes the boundaries of imagination, shaping an identity as boundless as the very cosmos. Finally, as the final curtain falls on this life-altering exploration, you find yourself equipped with the deepest understanding that the power to define fear's meaning in your life dwells solely within you. You hold the brush, you hold the pen, fear only urges it along the page. The narrative remains yours to craft. Conclude now with this expanded canvas before you, vibrant and unyielding. Venture forth into a world where fear is not a dictator but a confidant that heralds boundless freedom, guiding you toward the realization of an identity not forged in restraint, but realized in transcendent liberation. Here, at the intersection of fear and freedom, you have discovered the signature of your true self, infinitely capable and beautifully unrestrained.